Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome to my channel for the first time if you have never listened before. In this video, I wanted to talk about how the narcissist new supply is literally miserable and bored, even if you don't think so. So at this point, you're not with the narcissist anymore. They have moved on incredibly fast. They have a new supply, and they're bragging all over social media about how amazing the new supply is, how happy they are. Maybe they are taking trips together, going to theme parks, going out to romantic dinners, taking vacations, and walking on the beach, whatever they're doing, because, they're love bombing the new supply. So they're super over the top. And they want to plaster it all over social media because they're hoping that you're watching somewhere and they're trying to hurt you. They want you to think that the new supply is better. And that's exactly what it does. You start thinking that. You start thinking that he's happy. And by the way, in my videos, I know that I always talk about the narcissist being like a guy, but I'm just doing it from my point of view. Of course, narcissists can be women as well. If you're a guy and you're listening, I just talk like that because it's from my own experience. But so you start thinking that the narcissist is happy with the new supply, and you think the new supply is happy. You think that she's getting all of the things that you never got. And nothing could be further from the truth. What's really going on is the new supply is miserable. And think back about your own experience with the narcissist. How many of the times that you had were actually happy times? I think that a lot of times when the relationship ends, we tend to romanticize things and picture it better than what it really was. I did this myself. And even if you're the person who ended the relationship with the narcissist, it doesn't really matter who breaks up with who. You still kind of go through waves of emotion where you remember the good times. And you're kind of like, oh, I miss them or whatever. But if you really think about the times that you had with the narcissist, you didn't really have good times with them. You were fighting, you didn't trust them, you had that gut feeling that you couldn't quite put your finger on, but it was like we all had those red flags and just that gut instinct that we can't really trust this person. They're not really being honest with us, but you couldn't quite exactly pinpoint what exactly was going on because they're master manipulators. They're unbelievable, at their tricks, their games, their illusions. And they always end up stringing us along and making us, believe whatever they're trying to sell. But you always had that gut instinct. And, you fought all the time with them. They always ruin holidays too. This is something that a lot of narcissists do. You never really had a good holiday. I mean, thinking back in my relationship with my ex, it was like, he ruined Thanksgiving by being high on drugs. And it was literally a nightmare. They ruin Christmas, they ruin your birthday. Depending on what kind of narcissist you're with, mine was a complete cheapskate. So he didn't spend money on me. Um, he did more, like getting me cards and writing love letters, like that kind of thing. And just using his words by telling me, oh, I love you so much. You're so amazing, and putting things on social media. But he didn't really physically buy expensive gifts or really any gifts, even if they weren't expensive. He just was a cheapskate. So, um, I didn't really have good holidays where he sort of wooed me or wined and dined me or got me amazing Christmas presents or things like that. So, I know that it looks like the new supply is really, really happy with the ex, but they're really not. They're just in a period of being manipulated right now. They're being love bombed. They are, appearing to get things that they want. The narcissist is just mirroring them and copying them, telling them what they want to hear. And we all know that that wears off. That doesn't last the entirety of the relationship. Love bombing is usually pretty brief when you look back at your situation. I mean, if you actually think about how long the narcissist was wonderful to you, it probably wasn't that long. And, I can certainly think back about my relationship, and yeah, it literally lasted maybe a couple of months, maybe, the love bombing. So it's eventually going to turn to crap. And the new supply is going to be miserable. She's going to be depressed. I gained 60 pounds in my relationship with my ex. So I was depressed, gained a ton of weight, cried all the time. I knew I couldn't trust him. I couldn't count on him or rely on him because the narcissist is constantly letting you down. It's just like an empty, it's just nothing but empty promises, lies, broken promises, games, manipulation. And that's what the new supply is heading into. And they don't really know it yet, but they will, they're going to end up miserable and they're going to have the exact same experience as you did, if not worse. Because narcissists don't get better over time, they just get worse. They get craftier, they know how to lie better, manipulate better. They just perfect their games. They don't ever get any better. So the new supply isn't going to be treated better than you whatsoever. And she's probably going to be treated worse. And um the new supply is bored and miserable. I mean, narcissists are extremely boring. They're not able to self-regulate. They're not they have that constant like black hole where they just hate themselves. They're full of self-loathing, shame, they're miserable, they're not able to love. They aren't capable of having any good emotions, any happy emotions. They only have negative ones. They're, rageful and hateful and jealous and spiteful and everything negative, and they really have a negative opinion of themselves. Deep down, I know that people think of narcissism and they think, oh, it's somebody who's really arrogant and this and that. But deep down, they genuinely hate themselves. I know that this is true with my ex. He thought he was hideous. He really hated the way he looked. He knew that he was a horrible person. And in fact, he would say that all the time. And they do hate themselves. And they need constant entertainment, which is where we come in. The supply is basically what they use to escape their horrible, lame, boring, shitty life. And they use sources of supply to keep them entertained, to keep their mind busy, so that they're not sitting around thinking about how awful they are, because they know that they're a terrible person. They know that they burn bridges, they lie, they scheme, they cheat, they just screw everyone over, they burn every single bridge. Usually their own family has nothing to do with them because they've screwed them over so many times. They have a string of exes that have been good people and they've destroyed these people. They've potentially given them diseases. They've obviously cheated and had affairs, totally broke these people's hearts. A lot of times they take it, they take advantage financially, and they just totally scam these people and take their money. They know exactly what they're doing. So they hate themselves deep down because they know what kind of horrible person they are. And they don't want to think about how much they hate themselves. They don't want to sit there and think about what a terrible person they are. So they get a source of supply to keep them entertained and to keep their mind busy. Narcissists love to use different things to escape. That's why they have random sex. They sit there and have these like random one night stands and these hookups because it's just an easy instant gratification to sort of take their mind away, and they don't have to think about what a terrible person they are. And they do drugs. My ex is a drug addict, and that's exactly why he sat there and got high, because it would build up in him. He'd think about, oh my God, I'm a horrible person. I'm a piece of crap. I've done all these terrible things. And then he would go and use drugs. So they use sex, drugs, whatever they can. They're adrenaline junkies, and they do these things to not think about how terrible they are. And they're not fun people because they don't have their own personality. They just mirror other people. So they're kind of like a quilt of different people's personalities. They're just like chunks of different people's personalities, like sewn together that they've met over the years. Like maybe they like this part of this person and they think that sounds cool. So they steal that part to make up their own personality. It's very strange. But they really have no actual personality. They really don't. They're not fun people. They're not funny people. They're boring. And they use us, they need us for entertainment and escape. So you always had to keep the narcissist entertained. I know I did. We would play board games, go bowling. I was always like being silly and just like singing stupid songs and just, being funny and weird. And I think he liked that I always kept him entertained because he wasn't thinking about how much he hated himself for that 10 minutes or whatever it was, if we were playing a game, whatever we were doing. And, you know, you kind of have to keep them entertained and you have to keep them busy so that they don't think about their inner thoughts that they're constantly trying to avoid and they're always running from. And that's what the news supply is having to do now. She's keeping the narcissist entertained. She's bored out of her mind. I mean, this person has no personality. And that eventually comes to light once they start the devaluation. I mean, in the beginning, you think, wow, this person's exactly like me. Holy crap, they're like my twin. We have all of these same common interests. We just have everything in common. This is awesome. But that fades away quick. That's only during the love bombing. And then the truth comes out. You realize they're lame, they're boring. If they get depressed a lot, they like lay in bed and don't really want to go anywhere or do anything. They're moody. They're just nasty people. They're not fun, exciting people to be around. They're really not. They're just always looking for an escape. They want to do drugs, whatever. They don't like normalcy. And they can't maintain a level of normalcy for any length of time. And, so after a couple of months or whatever, however long the love bombing lasts for you, some people it only lasts a few weeks. Some people the love bombing is a few months. Some people it can last for a couple of years. It just depends. Um, but with me, it was like after a few months, his true colors started coming out. He was boring. Oh my God. I would sit there and just be like, he sucks. Like I felt like the monkey that's hitting the drum. Like I always had to be entertaining and keep him occupied. And it's like I don't want to have to do that. It felt like a chore, It was like he suddenly wasn't funny. In the beginning he tried to be lively and funny and all of that when he was, love bombing me. But once that faded, it's like, he's not funny, he's not romantic, he wasn't even nice. He just like talked shit about everybody, how the world screwed them over. Nothing is ever their fault. They just bitch and moan and complain all the time. They talk about people they can't stand. They talk about people they hate. They call everyone else a narcissist. My ex used to call his boss a narcissist, two of his friends a narcissist. He called me a narcissist. They just sit and complain all the time about how the world has basically screwed them over. And they should have this or they deserve that. And that's boring. You don't want to sit and listen to that. You want to like laugh with somebody. You want to go out. You want to have a good time. And narcissists don't like to do that. They really don't. They don't want to do anything where they're not the center of attention. They don't want to go out and have dinner and maybe you'll be the center of attention or you'll have a good time. They want to sit at home when you're miserable and they just want to talk about themselves and how the world screwed them over. So they're the center of the conversation. They're the center of everything. And that's all they want to do. And I used to be so bored. Like he would like drone on about just ridiculous stuff. We always had to watch what he wanted to watch on TV. It was like, I remember when I broke up with him, I was so happy to just watch a show on TV. And it's like you forget the little things. You take so many little things for granted because when you're in a relationship with an emotionally abusive person, you don't realize how much control they have over you and how much of yourself you've lost and how much of just the little simple things that you don't get to really enjoy anymore. I wasn't happy. I was miserable. I would cry all the time. I wasn't sleeping. I never got to do anything that I wanted to do. It was like I couldn't even watch a TV show because it was all about him. He'd control the remote and it was like he would put on what he wanted and that was it. And he would do his drugs and whatever. And everything was always about him. And I was miserable. And I really wanted out of that relationship for over a year. I mean, I was miserable for a long time, but I felt kind of trapped in a way. And they make you feel, they use they call it the fog, the fear, the obligation, and the guilt. And they use these things as manipulation tactics to keep you in the relationship. And he did. I felt guilty. I felt if I broke up with him, he's going to be homeless and he'll be on the street. What if he dies of an overdose? What if this? What if that? And All of his nonsense manipulated me into staying in the relationship longer, but I was terribly miserable. And you have to understand that the new supply is too. I know it doesn't look like that right now because they're plastering only happy things on social media, but social media is a lie. On Facebook, you only put the highlight reel. You only put the good things. I mean, social media is basically a way to make your friends and everyone jealous. You want to put, oh, look, I've lost weight, or oh, look, I'm taking this vacation, or oh, look at this new car I bought. It's really like a douchey, braggy thing that, people just want to post about great things about their life. And certainly with narcissists anyway. Obviously, with just like a normal person, who's not narcissistic, they don't use social media as a way to brag and act like a douche, but narcissists certainly do. So they're going to use it as, a tool. And, they're trying to make you jealous. But, think about what's really behind the mask. I think back to my relationship and we would, I would post pictures where, we'd go to the park or whatever and go hiking and I'd snap a picture of me and him and I'd put it on Facebook. Oh, we went and did this today. It's so beautiful outside, whatever. But we would be arguing, he would be cold and distant, he wouldn't hold my hand when we were at the park. Or we would just be, maybe he was giving me the silent treatment at that time because my ex always did the silent treatment. That was like his favorite emotional thing to use against me. Um, and I didn't post that stuff on social media. Nobody really knew what an asshole he was. Nobody knew about the fights. Nobody knew about his addiction. I never put that public, ever. And so people have no clue what happens behind closed doors. And so even though it looks like they're happy, they're really not. We know that the narcissist is miserable. We know that. And what happens is their personality rubs off on everyone else around them. Once they let down that mask of the love bombing and they start revealing their true inner self, they're just a nasty, miserable, horrible person. And that starts to rub off on the people around them. And so when you hang around a narcissist long enough, you become miserable. You're depressed. Maybe you don't want to get out of bed. You're gaining weight. You're just crying all the time. You're terribly unhappy. And the new supply is going to eventually go through all that. If she's not doing it now, it's just because he's still keeping up the love bombing. But we know that the love bombing isn't real. It's just a manipulation tool to get whatever they want out of the supply. So if you're seeing their social media and you're seeing the nonsense that they're posting it for you to see. So just know that the narcissist is sitting there, like rubbing his hands together or twirling his mustache, doing the evil, laugh, hoping that you're out there looking. And he's like, oh, wow, yeah, I'm going to post this because, she always wanted us to go to this restaurant. So I'm going to take the new supply to this restaurant and post a picture about it. And, this will really get under her skin. They do this on purpose. They're messing with you. They're bitter. They're jealous, angry, nasty, jealous, just horrible people. I mean, they really, really are. And I guarantee you the new supply is miserable. Guarantee you. Because we were miserable too. I mean, think back about your relationship. You were not happy with the narcissist. You weren't. I know that you might think that, but you weren't. Because it wasn't real. They didn't really love you. They didn't treat you kind. They probably weren't faithful. They used you. They cheated. They manipulated. They lied. How do you have a happy relationship when you're being lied to? Like lies don't equal love or happiness. And all they do is lie. They're pathological liars. So your relationship was miserable too. And believe me, the new supply is miserable. That was something that helped me get through my ex moving on with a new supply. Even though I ended the relationship, it still hurts when you see them move on with somebody else because you think, wow, I was really that replaceable. And sadly, yes, everyone is. And the new supply is that replaceable too. They move on without even batting an eyelash. They don't care about anybody, including the new supply. So just keep always reiterate and just always remember that the narcissist isn't happy and the new supply isn't happy. She's not better than you. She's not getting anything that you didn't get. The narcissist has not changed for the new supply. She's not happy. She is miserable. And she's only going to become more miserable the longer she stays with the narcissist because they steal your soul. They steal your happiness. They steal anything good from you. and you're just this empty shell when it's all over with. You're just a sad person. You cry all the time. You're miserable. You're depressed. I mean, it's terrible being with these people. So the new supply is going to go through that exact same thing. So if you're having a difficult time moving on from the relationship and you're watching them move on and it's unfolding in front of you and you're seeing them with this new person and you're believing the lie, you're believing that he's happy and you're believing that this new supply is amazing and you're believing that this is a real relationship, please tell yourself that it's none of that is true. This is all fake. This is all illusion. This is all lies. They are master manipulators, and he is just setting her up to extract fuel. And that's all he's doing. So I hope this video was helpful to you guys. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.